Hello, and thank you for joining us today in our studies of Second Kings. Today we're in Second Kings chapter 4. And here in this chapter, you have a list of several different events that take place in the life of Elisha, and several different occasions where we see Elisha's work being presented to various people at various times and under various circumstances. And while we could spend our time talking about what it is that happens, from the standpoint of seeing the raising of the Shunammite woman's son, or whether it be dealing with the cleansing of the stew pot, or whatever the case might be, we could look at all of the dynamics of what transpires. But instead, this morning, I would like to go through a little bit of a different frame of discussion when it comes to this particular chapter. Because you actually see in these events that take place some very poignant lessons on the nature of the servant of God working with others. And so let's look at some things maybe from a slightly different vantage point today. I want us to begin at the start of the chapter with the first occasion, with the widow who comes to Elisha. And you have here the message of compassion. That here is a widow whose husband was one of the prophets. And she is now in a situation where her husband has died, and the creditors have come to basically take her sons as the payment for the debt, that they will have to work as servants, as slaves for the creditors until such time as the debt is paid off. And so the wife comes to Elisha looking for a solution. And Elisha shows compassion. He's very cognizant of her circumstances. He wants to help her. He wants to take care of her. And so he asks what she wants him to do. And basically her statement is, well, the only thing that I have to my name is this little bit of oil. So he tells her to pull everything together, to bring all the pots from not just that she has, but that any of her friends or her neighbors have, and bring them together, and don't let anybody see what you're doing, as it were. But that this little bit of oil is going to fill all of these pots. And then she is going to be able to sell that oil to take care of the debt, and then to give her and her sons the wherewithal to be able to live off of the money that was made from the selling of that oil. But here you have a principle of compassion, of being willing to help someone else and to see and to feel for someone else's circumstances that in and of itself doesn't directly relate to you and doesn't directly affect you. You know, this is one of many prophets who has died. This is one of many individuals who has left behind a wife or children, whether it be on the battlefield or in the middle of their service or whatever the case might be. And yet here Elisha sees someone in need. And instead of having a hardened heart of, well, that's just the way life is, he shows compassion. In the second account that we read about with the Shunammite woman, you see another situation that comes to our interactions with one another, and that is the principle that kindness begets kindness. Here, the kindness does not begin with Elisha. Here, the kindness begins with the Shunammite woman, who, after Elijah stops through to eat as he is traveling, decides with her husband that they are going to build a room specifically for Elisha for when he comes, so that not only does he have a place to eat, but he has a place to sleep as well. And this kindness is going to cause Elisha to repay that kindness in a very strong way, with giving her a son, something that she has always wanted but never been able to have. And then, of course, you have the situations that are going to arise over the course of the years when the son is going to die. And yet, even then, Elisha is going to not just sit there and say, well, I'm sorry for the circumstances which have occurred, but by the power of God and his work as a servant of God, he is going to be able to even do something about it. Kindness begets kindness. You know, so many times in our world, we sometimes seem to forget. Because sometimes there are those who will not return kindness with kindness, and yet in the overwhelming majority of cases, when we go out of our way to show kindness to somebody else, there will be kindness that will be received in turn. And it may not even be from the person to whom it was originally bestowed. But kindness begets kindness. And when we are ones who show that kindness to others, when we go out of our way, not just for the generic kindness of being polite, but when we go out of our way to do something for someone else, that kindness is repaid. It may not be in the way that we thought it would be. It may not be from a source that we thought it would be. But kindness begets kindness. And then the third area, down at the end of the chapter, as you're dealing with Elisha there and the man that is going to bring the 20 loaves of barley bread. You see Elisha also living out the principle that would be talked about in the New Testament, that it is more blessed to give than to receive. Because here he's going to receive this bounty from this man, and instead of using it for himself, instead of selfishly hoarding it instead of going out and bragging about all of the things that he now has, he tells his servant to go and give it to the people so that they may eat. And of course, his servant says, well, what's this going to do to feed 100 people? And he says, just go do what I told you, and it feeds 100 people. But Elisha here shows the willingness and the desire to focus more on his ability to give to somebody else than on what it is that somebody else has given to him. As we go through our lives, these are the very same principles that in the New Testament we are taught to utilize and to have as a core of who we are in our lives. We are to be ones who recognize that it is more blessed to give than to receive. We are to be ones who treat others the way that we want to be treated. We are to be those who, no matter how others are acting toward us, we treat them with good and do not respond evil for evil. We are to be ones who have compassion. We are to be ones who live lives showing the love of God. Now, there are hard things that have to be done. There are hard choices that have to be made. And that doesn't mean going along with evil for the sake of saying that I'm being kind or things of that nature. But it does mean true, genuine love, care, concern, and kindness have always been a part of what it means to be a servant of God. These are the things that I found in 2 Kings chapter 4. I hope that they are beneficial to you. Next time we'll come back and we'll begin looking at 2 Kings chapter 5. And I hope you'll join us then. But until then, have a great day.